Alright, here we go. In the nick of time. The package has arrived. This is the camera that I'm hoping is going to work. Let me get some better light going on here. What a day. What a day. Oh, I cut the bottom already. I get the turkey barn ready today. I got it ready. Got all the chips in. Axis, that's what it is. It's the camera. And then amongst my running around, I'm like, screw it. I'm gonna go out and get some fast food away. And it's dinner time, so I figured the local Chinese food restaurant would probably be pretty fresh and good. So I went in there and I just started to eat. And the girl walked by me and I kind of looked at her. I'm like, yeah, this person looks familiar. I kept my eye on her. I'm like, that is Sadie. There's no way that isn't Sadie. Sadie is the daughter of my friend Michael, who came fishing with me last weekend from Texas. Crazy, right? So random. I snuck it behind them and made them come and sit with me for dinner. They're pretty wiped out, and I had given them directions. They're going to stay an extra day where my boat is and wanted to go exploring. So I had a rental Jeep because he broke his car. Had a bad flat. A couple of adapter things here. So I gave him a roadmap to get to that crazy waterfall and deep pool that I've shared with you guys fishing in there. And they found the place and went there. How awesome is that? And they got to see 5 bull elk and a bear. So this thing isn't very heavy, thank God. Here we got all sorts of stuff. There's a bit of a computer chip in here. Alright. I'm guessing this is for the mount. This is the plate for the back, obviously. Now, what do we got here? Little bubble wrap. There it is. I'm imagining this is on a motor. It's gotta be. So here's all the plugins. I don't know if you guys can see it, but that looks like the same plugin as what the cable goes to on the internet, right? That's what it is. Oh, see, I'm doing a typical mail thing right now. You just start doing stuff without looking at the instructions, and you get the instructions when you can't figure it out. Okay, so this is all looking up for me, right? Okay, we got a lens cover on there. Look at that. Wow. So this is obviously going to need a camouflage paint job right away, which I can do easy. What else we got here? Anything else in here? I think that's it. Alright. Packaging, right? Okay, my tech geeks, this is what I have. Okay? An Allen wrench and a couple of plugs, obviously to keep some moisture up. Now, calling all my Geek Squad. And I say geek with absolute affection and respect, because if I consider you a Geek Squad, I consider you 10 times smarter than me. So, this is a Axis Q1785-LE network camera. Okay? That's what I got. So, to my Geek Squad, if there's anything you feel you need to get to me right away if you're familiar with this product. Please do as soon as you can, okay? And do it at ProGuide66@howtohunt.com. Alright. I don't understand where the microphone would be. I wonder if I have to get a separate microphone maybe. I don't understand how this would pick up audio, but maybe does it underneath the lens. I don't know. I'm not going to mess with it right now. It's too late and I have to get some other stuff done. And then I have to be in Nanaimo for midnight, and we have to be at the post office for 4 in the morning to get the turkeys and the chickens. But there we have it. I have got the camera. That is good news. Alright, well, there we go. So, one more note that I'm going to give to you, my Geek Squad. Hold on a second. I remembered I had this. I've never ever used it. When I had a computer built strictly for editing, the people at the computer store said I have to get this. What is this? Protection for power surges or something? It's a battery. And it's an APC backup back-UPS 550. So this is what I'm imagining. If I have this absolutely juiced up, I should be able to plug in my power pack to this to feed off of this, as well as the solar charge panel on the power pack, right? To hopefully have enough juice to power this little devil all night long until the sun comes up, right? I think so, and this sure is a lot heavier than that solar power pack. So again, this is a back-UPS 550 APC for my Geek Squad. Alright, now you guys know what I have and how, if any of you are absolutely familiar with what I want to do, text me right away with suggestions. And I have a feeling I have a bunch of emails. Email me with your suggestions. I have a feeling I have a lot of suggestions in my inbox already, and I will for sure skim through them tomorrow. This is looking up, isn't it? So, yeah, my friends from Texas, bumped into them, had dinner with them, and they found that special place I pointed them to, thank God. And they got to go swimming in that big pool, that huge waterfall. They saw 5 bull elk and a bear. Very cool. So they're pretty tired by the time they made it out this way. And I ran into an absolute fluke. And I took all of their fish home with me to keep in the freezer until tomorrow morning, and then we'll be sending them off on their way. There you go. Cool. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to get some voices heard. What else am I going to do, right? I know I'm too tired to dive into these instructions right now. But I'm going to get some voices heard. So I obviously got a few hours to kill. There's no way, I can't nap for an hour or 2 hours. I just can't do it. So I'm going to stay up, and then I'll leave here at about 10:30 to go get Sarah. It must be 7:30ish right now. Enough of this babbling. My Geek Squad, who I appreciate huge. Now you know everything that I have. Let's see if we can all make it work together for this trip. Alright, so we're going to go back and forth a few times to present and the past, I believe, in the inboxes tonight. Well, we get some people heard. I've only got a few in the recents here. But one, it was a different kind of message, and I had to look into it a little more before simply just copying and pasting it, because it came with a bunch of pictures of writing. So let's get into this one. And this is titled. It's not titled. Hi Steve and fellow Club of No Return. I have a story I want to share with you, but I'm flat out busy right now, so I sent you a written account of what my old people taught me. I am First Nations Australian. I want you to know that I'm fine with the world knowing my name. I am Genevieve Forrest, an elder of the Wangata or Wangatha Nation, Western Australia. I can write with a pen way faster than a keyboard, so that's why I sent photos of my story written by hand. You found a way for our global voices to be heard. Stay safe and never stop asking stuff. Love you, my world family. From Genevieve, the Wongatha. So we're sending love right back at you, Genevieve, already. We haven't even heard your words yet. All right, here we go. I'll put the pictures on. And hopefully I can find the first page. All right, so here's the first page. Western desert country, Western Australia, a word of warning. Then there's a photo. And there's an annoying crazy dog bark in the background. Hold on. I gotta straighten that out. Wow. That's a familiar looking description. Except for the skull and the bones at the feet. Not so familiar. Now, let's see if I can read this from my photo on my phone. When you're in the desert, you have to stick together. There are many dangers, but if you listen to what the old people tell you, you will be all right. Our people have been in the desert since the dream time. We are Wongatha. That is also the name of our language. We have spoken the same language for over 60,000 years. The Europeans only just got here in the 1800s. Our people know the desert and everything in it, and how to survive and be safe. There are some places that are especially dangerous because of who lives there. I gotta zoom in on the Garn Banu. Garn Banu. Garn Banu. It looks like a G-A-A-R-N. Or is it an M? Gambunu. It's either Gambanu or Garn Bunu. Looks like an M, doesn't it? I think that's an M. They are very, very tall, covered all over in long black hair. They look like a giant hairy man. They live in the rocky caves, and these days, they even live in the old abandoned mine shafts left over from the gold rush. They capture adults and children and throw them over their enormous shoulders and carry them back to their dark caves and mine shafts and kill and eat them. They leave big piles of animal and human bones all around their lair. Third and final page. If a person or a child isn't keeping up with the group when traveling on foot through these areas, it is an N. The Garn Buno. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Garn Banu. The Garn Banu will catch them. This is a real danger. Don't wander off alone and keep up with your group. Don't stray behind or you'll end up in his lair, surrounded by many, many bones before he eats you too. Alright, gotcha. I did it. I got it. And there it is. And there's the photo, and that's straight to the point. Message from an elder indigenous person from Australia. Genevieve, appreciate the time you took to do that. Hand writing and sending and drawing those drawings and sending them to us. And that's a pretty dark warning. Oh, so that's what that is. That's a picture of a person over the shoulder. I noticed some shooting stars in the background too. Coincidentally, because that's what we were talking about last night, right? Now, Genevieve, if you have any more knowledge that you can send us, if you get a chance, write it down on a piece of paper and do that again. It worked great. All right? If you could you tell us of some of the people from your community who have been taken, if you have that information? I don't necessarily have to know the names. If you have any first-hand accounts of people being taken, the world would be very interested in hearing of that knowledge. And also, if you have any of the stories passed down to you from other elders in your community or current day community members, and they have knowledge of these beings actually murdering a human being and eyewitnessing that and possibly escaping themselves, and if they've come across these places where all these bones are, could you get back to us with some information on that as well? I know you don't have to share the location. I understand if you don't want to, and that's fine. If you do want to share, that's fine too. Or even if anybody knows of these areas where these bones may be laying, they can show us what it looks like around there, or even a photo. There's going to be a lot of people here that'll be interested in seeing that too. There you go. Appreciate you, Genevieve. Absolutely appreciate the time you just took out to email all the people through me. Short, straight to the point, right? Not much in between. I'd love to hear more. Excuse me. All right, here's another one. This is titled CCTV Videos, Huge Bigfoot in Rain Plus Orbs. Steve, you can share. My name is Scott Harwood. I've attempted to share before, but I didn't get shared. I live in northern Alberta on what was Indian Reserve land. The last 3 years I secluded myself to my property after my first 3 encounters with the Sabe, each encounter just days apart with 5 different individuals. My first encounter was in my tree line. Something was thrown to draw my attention from the area of the property I was attempting to access. For weeks through the summer, I made it a point to walk my dog to mark the territory because we'd had wolves and coyotes previously prowling the property at night. When we would walk, I mentor the backfield I would hear. I think he must have meant I would remember the backfield I would hear an exotic bird call from this back corner. I had the first encounter and an answer from where I was trying to enter the yard. Anyway, I enter the tree line and I encounter a tree structure. I start to move a tree so I can enter, and I smelled it. Sulfur and piss. I backed away thinking bear or Bigfoot, and now I've smelled bears a lot before. We had a garbage dump near a truck stop we owned as a child. I could go see up to 20 bears at a time, and this wasn't it. I entered the structure and immediately could see where a giant being sat all night without moving. You could see in the blackened leaves with dew, the light brown leaves under where he sat were beaming bright without dry. You could literally see where his ass crack was sitting on the leaves. Bunch of typos, obviously, but we'll get this. Not everybody's a professional writer, okay? I followed a bipedal set of footprints about 50 yards into the bush. I measured 8 toe-to-toe links of my size 11 shoe. I'm between the strides. I didn't have a phone, but I just used my shoes to gauge the distance. I then seen the creature about 20 yards away. As I stepped behind a pine tree, I saw it look at me. As it walked behind the tree, I saw his face clearly. I could see its huge trunk of its leg. It was illuminated in the sun, in the morning sun. It was then I knew they were real and backed away. I'm pretty sure that's the same creature that's in the video I sent you. He's about 10 feet tall. My second encounter was the following evening in my field. I was in my truck working on my stereo, and I looked into the rearview mirror, and I could see him sitting there behind the truck about 20 yards away. When I grabbed my phone, he disappeared into the bush. A couple days later, I was out taking pictures of the tree line, and I all of a sudden got this alien-type buzz chatter in my ear, and it turned into a caring female voice that said, "Don't go any further, it's not safe for you." Then a little bit later that evening, when it turns to dusk, It was just before dark. I noticed 3 orbs come from the back corner where I had my encounter to the front of my property. And about 5 minutes later in my living room, I smelled the same smell I smell when I had my first encounter, but it was 10 times worse and was in my house. So I went out on my porch where I encountered a family of 4 beings, 2 adults and 2 young ones. One was, I gauged, about a teenager's age, and the other was a toddler. And they're about 15 feet away from me, standing in my front yard. All I could think to say was welcome. And sisters, they seemed to like to response because they erupted with an ungodly chimpanzee crossed with a coyote and a hyena chatter that was unnerving. What was totally unnerving was the other I'd estimate 20 beings that were surrounding us in the bush also erupted in the same chatter. It made me realize how insignificant we really would be if they decided to dispatch the 300 people that live in my community. But since then, Steve, it's been an eye-open and awakening. It started that night, and I started to discover their abilities. I shone my flashlight on them, on the 4 beings standing in my front yard, and they immediately vanished. Completely disappeared except the teenager left a shadow behind the arms, widespread on the side of my cabin. As soon as I turned the light off, they were all standing exactly where they were originally. So they demonstrated to me there that they can manipulate shadows, decide to cast their own shadow or not. Truly beings of light. It's been amazing, Steve. I spent probably 6 months just accumulating a list of all their abilities, and they've shown me. It's amazing. I even witnessed a female move to separate trees with only her mind and a wave of her fingers. The branches from 2 separate trees formed together and blocked the bottom part of her face as I was talking to her and observing her in the bush about 15 feet away with the baby. Anyway, Steve, I really appreciate all you do for the Sabe community. And I really look up to you and think you are a force to reckon with when it comes to speaking your mind and being real. Thank you for sharing your experiences with the world. It's been a perpetual encounter for me here since I even was able to communicate with them for many hours on a Ghost Tube VOX app. It's been enlightening, a true awakening. I can understand why the one researcher that you spoke of had a complete life-changing epiphany while dealing with these beings. Because I did too. They actually told me to repent and go to God. I'm going to leave this with you here, Steve, and I'll write it in again if you're interested. I do have a relationship with these beings. I know 20 of them by name. Even got stuff from their bucket list. They are tricksters. They do lie a little, even gets a couple typos. One more time, you guys, the last sentence. I know 20 of them by name. Even got stuff from their bucket list. They are tricksters. They do lie a little. Even gets biblical to a point, but they are amazing beings, truly magical and spiritual. All right, there's a mouthful. There's a lot for your average person to take in and go, huh? Sounds interesting, Scott, but you know what? A lot of the things you mentioned in this email are very familiar to me through other people. All right, now, here's my question to you, Scott. How many other people in your community are right at par with you when it comes to your relationship with these beings? You're communicating with them or hearing them or seeing them? Are you possibly what might be considered a chosen one in your hood, in your community, or is there everybody in the community having the same shit going down? Have you ever heard of these beings ever stating that they have chose you or chose another human being to be a messenger for mankind by any chance? Have they ever mentioned anything like that to you ever before? Have they ever said, we're going to use you to send a message to mankind at all? I'd be curious to know that. That seems to be a common denominator with a lot of people that allegedly have a relationship going on with a handful of these beings around their homes. Not every one of them, but a lot of people have said that to me. Interesting. Yeah, I want you to write back. I want you to write back tons. If you can, try spell check the next time or get someone to proofread it for you. It'll help me read it smoother. But if not, that's fine. I still made sense of what you emailed easy enough. I can't wait to hear more, man. I want to hear more. Excuse me, you have to add to it. Please add to it. Keep feeding us your knowledge. I appreciate your kind words too, man. Whew. All right, here we go. Take it from what you will or leave it, you guys, but I know there's a bunch of you who are taking notes for real, and there's a lot of stuff in there that's patternable, right? I'm looking forward to hearing more. This is titled Transparent Encounter. Hi, Steve. Thanks for your channel. I'm loving it. My name is Mike. I guess I'm kind of medium. I'm a kind of medium. When I was a small boy, I used to see and hear stuff from the other side and the stars. Not that I knew what that was then. I was a typical British suburban kid with stuff going on that I never told anybody about for fear of being locked up or put on medication. Anyway, I slowly found my spiritual path. I'm 54 now. I do not practice any kind of business around these skills. Naturally, I was led to nature and a desire to be out in it. So I ended up living in a fairly isolated woodland in Somerset, England for over 5 years in a yurt that I made from coppiced sweet chestnut. The place had a spring and is supposedly connected to the old druids. Anyway, this place is pretty powerful. So let's cut to the chase. I never saw one of the people, but once or twice a year I would stick my head out of the flap of my yurt and I would be gripped by fear. My spine chilled to the bone, an atmosphere of foreboding. Not a sound, and the woodland would be slightly unfocusable in my vision. Quote, F that, not going out there today, end quote, I'd say to myself, tie down every strap on the flap, and try to distract myself. We knew there could be big cats around because they had been seen. I lived with 5 other people. The idea of a Bigfoot never crossed my mind. I just thought it was definitely a big cat. So one day I decided to do a meditation walk. I would rise early, before sunup, and stalk my way around the area, and I mean real stalking. Slow, no sound, using shadow, trying to be invisible. I had such a beautiful day. I saw a fox dancing, 3 deer passed right by me in touching distance, so towards the end of the afternoon I decided to make a leaf shelter for the night and a little fire. I felt like I was being watched for quite some time. Just as I finished the shelter, I heard a deep, not quite human laugh. It wasn't a laugh from spirit. It was a real laugh. Like someone was stood right next to me, but there was nobody else there. No fear, no smell, nothing. Just this laugh. I'm used to batshit crazy stuff, so I just carried on. The idea of a Bigfoot never crossed my mind until a few weeks ago. I'd left the woodland and moved to the south of France. Met a woman, had kids, and now 17 years later, I have the desire to get back to learning survival and hunting skills. So naturally, I started watching the YouTubers, some good, some bad, and it was on Les Stroud's Survivorman site that I got the shock of my life. He talked about Bigfoots laughing at people, and bang! I flashed right back to that laugh in the woodland. And oh my God, I thought, could it be? Do they even exist in the UK? You bet they do. I've been researching like a man possessed. Then last week I found your site, and thank God I did. I was getting bored of the crap on the Bigfoot channels. And here I am planning to spend days and nights out in the forest around here, and it's like I'm being warned to be careful and alert to this possibility. In fact, I've had flashes of places I've been here where I feel there might be something to see, and that scares the shit out of me. But I can't let that stop me. I'll just have to tread carefully. I want to learn the plants and make a boat from greenwood, make string and shelters, etc. And above all, talk with the trees. Yes, many trees are intelligent living spirits that can teach you many things if you can see or hear the being in them. But that's another story. But I feel the need to get ready in time for when the shit really hits the fan in about 5 to 10 years. If the government doesn't try to kill us all first with the new health treaty with WHO, which will be signed into law in nearly every country in the world. Next year, if nobody stops it, I recommend you look this up. When the next pandemic is announced, the WHO will have power over government, business, army, and our human rights will be gone. So yes, for me, the people can be transparent. They are telepathic, like us if we learn to meditate and eat a pure, clean diet. I have the feeling that they respond to the spiritual and emotion state of the person that encounters them. But hey, maybe they have bad days too. Anyway, I'll let you know if anything happens. The place where I live is probably more energetic than my old woodland in the UK. Balls of light, UFOs, and lots of strange stuff all happens around here. Everybody's witness here. Everybody's witness here has helped me so much in understanding my own story. So if you read this out, thank them. And once again, thank you. I'm looking forward to your live wilderness feed if it all works, Mike. Oh, it's going to work, Mike. It's going to work. I was talking to my other friend, Mike, at dinner time and on the boat, and explaining how I basically had to teach myself everything in life. And as long as you decide you're going to figure it out, you'll figure it out. I'm going to figure this out. And I'm also going to get help from everybody here. But anyway, appreciate the email, man. And the heads up. There's a lot of shit going on in the world today that's dark. There's no way out of it. There's no way out of it. It's a side note. I don't know if any of you did take a little bit of time out, if you could think for yourself, and listen to Tucker Carlson while he was in Hungary the other day. It's a very, very interesting talk he gave. Very interesting. It should be alarming. It is alarming. It should be alarming for every single person on the planet. And it's nothing I haven't figured out for myself yet, looking into all angles on both sides of the fence. Non-stop. Bucking against the mainstream, which I do easily. I suggest you all do too. Now anyway, quick note on that, you guys, just so you know. He is the #1 watched journalist in the world right now. #1. And I heard a quick little interview from him this morning. Directly from him, his voice, his mouth, his image. It wasn't a recording or made up. And he said that he spoke of the possibility of interviewing Vladimir Putin the other day in a text with one person. Didn't tell his brother, didn't tell his wife, didn't tell any of his family members, didn't tell anybody. And boom, he got a phone call from Washington. And it was called, who was it, the SAF? I'm so tired right now. Anyways, it's security and the American security monitoring his texts from his phone. So it freaked him right out. So there you go, people. If you think we are not being monitored by these little devils, give your head a shake. They were monitoring his texts from his iPhone. And obviously still are today. Isn't that crazy? So let's just say if I was a movie producer and I was typing out a story of a world gone awry, and the people in it good people were in that story, wanting to organize and contact each other and organize each other to be the good guy team. How are you going to do it? How are you going to do that now? And if you think you're doing it now, you better change your tactics if it involves being around one of these things. Right? How creepy is that, you dirty sons of bitches? Another thing too is funny when you hear the number of the beast, right? Number of the beast. For a lot of people suspect the number of the beast was your American Social Security number, which in Canada it is called the Social Insurance number. A lot of people think that's the number of the beast. But as we go along, I wonder if this is actually it. Once you get the number for one of these, I wonder if this is the number of the beast. It just might be, right? It just might be. Sorry. Getting back on track. Here's another one. It's titled, Hasty Part 2 Answers to Your Questions. I know it sucks. This is what I was talking about earlier when I go back and forth, because sometimes another email might be directly related to a previous email of yesterday. But unfortunately, this is a couple years ago. But let's see if we make sense of it. Greetings, Steve. This is Catherine again. My husband and I listened to you read my story last night, and thank you. I love to listen to you read. You outsurpass all the others with no condescension. Sorry, I'm so tired, you guys. I'm sorry, I apologize. You asked me some questions about my story, so let's see if I can answer them, and perhaps share another story. This could be lengthy. So, if so, I will leave it to your discretion to read in full or not. Additionally, I will try to edit for grammar. My experience is not professional, and I will never try to sound as if I am all-knowing, but my experience is face-to-face and lasted about 3 years or so. I'm now 67, soon to be 68 in May. I've always been a logical realist. So here we go. The Ocala National Forest is a beautiful, lush area, and we lived on 69 acres, of which the back of the property bordered the Ocklawaha River. I apologize for this misspelling. I apologize for misspelling it on my original email to you. This river was full of many kinds of life forms, from gators to frogs and many types of fish. Plenty for the Bigfoot to eat, plus the deer that populated the area, which is why I think they never bothered my chickens or other pets. Like I said, I spent a lot of time in the forest, and at least 2 to 4 evenings a week with Bigfoot as my company. They appeared to be a family, or extended family. There was the big guy, as I called him, and he was at least 8 feet, with various shades of brown hair, darker down the middle of his back, long in places, not so long in others, almost always clean looking, except pieces of leaves hanging off in places from walking in the forest. He had this weightlifter kind of body that would have put Schwarzenegger to shame. He was attentive to his whole family, especially Mama, and did not seem to mind when the little ones ran around his legs. He really liked apples and bananas, and in particular, nuts. His face, as well as the face of all the others, was very human-like, with deep-set eyes, spaced fairly far apart, but considering the width of the bridge of the nose, that would be expected. Dark-colored eyes, with obvious sclera visible. The big guy had a beard, and with what could be called mustache hair coming from just above the upper corner of his lips that hung down with his beard, which was at least 8 to 10 inches long. The nose was fairly flat, but on the mother she had a bony point, so as to give her more of an attitude, lol. The big guy was obviously the dominant one, though I never saw him treat his family unkind. But they all deferred to him with respect, and he had a few sounds that he made that indicated it was time to go, and they went just like that. The skin on their faces was sort of leathery, but soft looking, especially on the children and the 2 females. Their mouth was fairly straight across, but not all the way to the ears. There was a slight fullness to the bottom lip in particular, and more so on the 2 females, and straight, dingy white to yellow teeth. Their ears were not very big and laid close to the head and had no hair on the surface. There's also the, quote, old man, end quote, as I called him. He had dark to various shades of gray hair that had a shaggy look to it, and perhaps even a silvery look to it down the middle of his back. And he seemed to have some areas of baldness, like the top of his head, parts of his upper arms and thighs. He did not mingle much, at least till we all became more friendly. He showed aging signs, such as a wrinkled face and hands, and I also noticed that he kind of limped when he walked and had missing teeth. The 2 kids were, and since I have no idea how they age, I guessed aged to height of human kids. So I guesstimated the kids to be about 6 and 8, and the older one to be about mid-teens or older. Now I was 4'11" tall in those days, and the littlest one was about midway to my shoulder, and the other one was about my height. The little ones were sort of a blondish/brown hair color, and they were both boys. They wrestled with each other and played together with the things natural to their environment, but they loved the ball I gave them, and I showed them how to play with it, and we sometimes played together. Then there was the 2 females. The mother I referred to as Mama, and companion to the big guy was almost 7 feet, I think, and she was large-breasted and had a soft, leathery face. Her reddish-brown hair was the longest of all of them, and it looked like she tried to keep it clean. Her face was not quite as flat as the others, and she had no hair on her face or her breast, and very little on her hands, and she was very friendly. Mama was very attentive to the 2 little ones, and I noticed she had fashioned a few toys made from sticks for them to play with, and they behaved better than some human kids I have known. I also enjoyed the relationship between Mama and the big guy. It was sweet. The teenage one I called Bubba was a proverbial awkward teen. He had the shortest hair, and it was dark brown. He also was well built and muscled, and he also had the widest nose of all. And was about 6 foot or so. Bubba seemed to hang with the other male. I figured he was the brother or friend of the big guy. I called him Goofy. And he was nearly as tall as the big guy with the darkest hair of all of them. And he was built like a linebacker. But he had longer legs than the rest. I called him Goofy because he kind of walked like a Disney character. He was always on the lookout. If there was a noise in the forest, he would amble off to check it out. The other female called Rose looked to be young, but not as young as a teen. For a Bigfoot, she was as pretty as a Bigfoot could be. She was about 5'5" and had notable breasts, and while built strongly, she was more feminine. She was always picking at her fingernails. Her hair was like a reddish/brown blonde depending on the sunlight, and she was pretty quiet. Now I'll interject here and tell you that my dad had the prettiest whistle. There was the musical vibrato, and he frequently whistled when he walked in the forest or out shopping. This was sometimes how we found him. Some months into our residence, before the Bigfoot made themselves known to me, I heard Dad's whistle one evening coming from the forest, and Dad was watching TV in the living room, and I was like, what the F? It was also during this time that I found the structure along the river's edge and put 2 and 2 together. A few days later, after the dogs were making a fuss and charging the forest edge, and I saw them just behind the tree line, swaying and watching, I frequently referred to them as the Watchers because they watch us and learn. This went on for some weeks. And I finally just walked out towards the tree line and said, "Hello, I can see you, so stop hiding." They backed off and disappeared. But they were back the next night, and again I went out there and spoke to them. I said, "I'm not going anywhere, so you might as well come out." A few nights later they came back, so I went out and sat on the tree stump and started singing and talking to them. They made some clicking sounds, and they chatted to each other. That's when I realized some of the sounds I had been hearing was them communicating with each other. There was what I called the chipmunk's chatter. Sounds sort of like a chattering of chipmunks. Then I also became aware of the other sound they made, which was the sounds you hear from bats called echolocation. This was very sophisticated. I found it almost fascinating. They also made this clicking sound, sort of like clucking of your tongue. They were making this sound when I made it. They were making this sound when I made it, and there was total silence. I don't think they expected me to copy them. I know this is long, but I want to share something with you. At this time in my life, I had waist-length red hair, and it was a hassle to dry, and I would sometimes sit outside on the stump near the back door and comb my hair in the sun to dry it. I noticed one late afternoon when I was home alone that the females seemed very interested in what I was doing. So I went to the house and found a denim bag I had made with a cross your chest strap, and I put 2 sturdy combs in it and a round mirror in a pink plastic frame, and I went out and showed it to them. Taking out one of the combs, I combed my hair. Took out the mirror and looked into it to show them what I do, or what to do. I walked closer to the tree line and noticed they did not back away, with Rose standing behind Mama. So I held out the bag in hopes Mama would come out to take it from me, and she did. I was like, holy cow. She took it from my hand. She stepped back some and took a comb, and she copied me and combed her hair. I motioned to her to give the other comb to Rose, and she did, and they both were excited like schoolgirls. I'd also put a bar of fragrant soap in the bag, but I don't think she knew what to do with it. Oh well. One more story. They all loved nuts. I learned after giving them a few here and there. My dad used to get this huge bushel basket of nuts. Lots of walnuts, Brazil nuts, and almonds. And I put some in a brown bag, and I had drawn and colored a big red heart on the bag and left it for them on the tree stump. The next day they left me a bunch of rocks with a heart drawn in the dirt in front of the stump. They watched me look for and collect rocks along the riverbed and in the forest. So we gifted each other something we both liked. I frequently shared food with them and loved it. The time I gave them all popsicles on a hot summer day, they loved them. It was fun to watch them eat it. Well, I could go on, but I better stop. I have other stories I can share. Just let me know if you want to hear them. As always, Steve, keep up your no-nonsense approach to things. We got your 6. No worries about sharing name. Not concerned with the negative opinions of others. My husband and I listen to you as often as you release new stories. You are the best. Your friend, Catherine, the Midget Queen. Catherine, I read this a long time ago, and this was 2021. There you go. So what do you think of that, you guys? Sounds a little out there, doesn't it? Sounds really hard to swallow, but you know what? We've heard this similar story before. And I've been hearing it recently with somebody who I have a lot of respect for too. Same flavor, same relationship, same stuff going on. It's pretty bizarre, right? It's really, really bizarre to hear it. And if you're out there still with us, make sure you send us some more. Alright? Unless you already have, but make sure you write us back again and follow up. I want to hear and learn more. Take from what you will, leave you guys. I wasn't there, but that's one hell of a write-up to just sit there and think up and yard out of your butt, right? Something else. I should probably get my butt in gear. I should probably go shower and get clean and shave this face before I go pick up Sarah tonight. I should probably do that. My eyes are feeling like they're real itchy, so these are getting pretty tired. But anyways, I got one funny I can share with you guys. So this evening earlier when it was sunny out, down the very end of my road, as you get lower, there's a lot of, the water holds up there. It's a little closer to the river, and the fields are still green down there. Everything's green. Up here our lawn's all brown. So everything's green. Everything. The grass, the field. Actually, I got the hay off that field. Now it's already grown up to about 1.5 feet long, 2 feet. 2 feet. Anyways, I'm driving home, and I gaze off to my left, and it's so funny because it was all green. All of a sudden, boom! Here's this great big black thing standing there. And it's funny because your initial catches your eye like, whoa, what the hell's that, right? And it was a big black bear. And it was just the fluke, 1 in a million. He was standing perfectly facing away from me, and he was standing on his hind legs, and he was going like this, reaching up into the bottom limbs of a fruit tree. And he was perfectly, his back was perfectly squared up with me, facing me. His back was. And I'll bet you he was easily, his nose was easily 7 feet off the ground, without a doubt. And he made his shoulders look big, his arms like guns, and his torso came down, but more straight. But it was big. And the grass was just the right length, you couldn't see his legs. But it's funny how that snapped my head so to attention so fast, like, whoa, what the, holy cow, look at that bear. Right? I wished I should have stopped and backed up and videotaped it, but whatever, it's just another bear. So there you go. One of the stories where I guess I should have been there. It would have been sounded a little more interesting. Anyway. Okay, you guys, my tech squad, my Geek Squad, all you people out there who are a lot smarter than I, here's my list. Back, caps lock UPS, 550 APC is my backup battery. There's 4 plugins on it, and a cord to plug in to charge it. So my solar chargeable battery pack, I'm guessing, would plug into that in the evening, right when it starts to get dark. And hopefully that, combined with that pack, will help this stream all night, right? Now, hopefully, I don't know yet, I haven't read the instructions. I'm hoping, well, by the looks of the cable, but there's no cable hookup to the Starlink. That's the problem. There's no end on my hardware for the Starlink for one of these. So where am I going to put that? Or is this thing going to pick up the Wi-Fi? Ooh, if that could pick up the Wi-Fi, holy cows, out of her a bonus. But I don't know. If it could pick up Wi-Fi, well, I would want to have one of those. We'll see. So my question right now would be, let's just say I do have to use that cable. Can I just use a cheap, shit-eating laptop and not this juice-eating item right here? I should be able to, right? Shit-eating cheap laptop. Wi-Fi to my Starlink. Feed this sucker here. Stream live 24/7. Right? Let's do this. Well, we're going to do this. I don't care what it takes. I am going to get this goal. I'm going to reach this goal. It'll take a few pieces of trial and error, but I'll make it happen. And we are going to get some crazy shit on this camera, without a doubt. I cannot wait. So, email me. You got some good, strong, solid suggestions. You're familiar with the shit that I got here. Send it to me. And I will be up to date on I'll take this in with me. Maybe I got an hour. No, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm too cross-eyed. Share my story at howtohunt.com. It's where you get your story read word for word. Alright? Even if you spell iodine with an L. I'll read it. Lyodine. Lodine. Oh, that's what I do, though. I read it word for word, no matter what, right? It's not practice. I don't know what I'm about to read. See you tomorrow.